If you're building any kind of structure outside, you'll quickly realise that roofing materials are quite expensive. But what if we could turn something like this old bedsheet into a roof?
To keep the home fires burning, we need lots of wood. To help us process and dry our firewood, we're building a new woodshed. We're always working with a tight budget, which means using reclaimed and recycled materials. But first we have to prepare the ground and dig into the hillside, creating a flatter area for us to build on. We also need to prepare the ground, for a sort of primitive foundation.
This is my first attempt at bricklaying, and I think it's going terribly. It doesn't really matter though, because this is just a retaining wall made out of reclaimed stone blocks from the original living room. There's a lot of cement still on the blocks, which is making it hard to make them very straight, so I'm just trying to make up the level as I go with new mortar. Does it look terrible? Yes, it does. Does it matter? Nope.
The most challenging aspect of getting second-hand materials seems to be for roofing. And the cheapest way of doing roofing would just be to stick some tarpaulins over it. I'm not keen to do this because around the property I found quite a lot of old tarpaulins which have been left on the ground for many, many years. They've gradually disintegrated and got mixed in with the soil and the vegetation. And this makes them very difficult to remove, and they're not really biodegradable. I don't really want to be using lots of plastic in our construction. Today we're going to do a little experiment and have a go at making our own oilcloth, just using some old sheets, some boiled linseed oil and some white spirit as a solvent and drying agent.
The colour of the bed sheets wouldn't make them inconspicuous in the garden, so we're going to dye them with oil paints. Here we've used a 1-to-1 mix of linseed oil and white spirit. We wring them out and hang them out to dry for a few days, but in the depths of January, this isn't particularly effective. The crisp winter sun brings a brand new day, and our mortar has dried in time for us to finish levelling off our terrace platform. And, as if by labour, some pallets appear.
Why are we using pallets for the base?
So there's lots of airflow because we want the wood to dry, so we need airflow from the sides and the base. And pallets are great because they're pre-made and they have a nice structure with lots of gaps.
Yep, and they were free.
Oh, obviously they're for free. Everything from this site is for free.
And how are we going to stop them rotting?
So we're going to raise them up off the wet soil just using some old bricks or stone, what are they called?
Well, reconstituted stone, I think.
Some old reconstituted stone from
like that.
Inside our old fireplace. So we've taken those out and we're going to raise up the pallets on those.
Do you want me to do that for a bit, or you? Okay.
I'm okay, thank you.
Cool. Cool. I do try to do things for her, but she just doesn't let me sometimes.
No point swapping her every 5 seconds. You can come and use your superior weight to squash this down if you want.
Use my superior weight.
Good pallet holding. Well done. Keep
I
going.
think actually, are women not? Oh, that's dangerous territory to get into.
What, heavier than men?
Well, no. Are men more dense than women?
Yeah, because they've got a higher proportion of muscle and a lower proportion of fat.
Please let us know in the comments below
whether or not you think you've got a higher proportion of muscle compared to fat.
Right, using my superior weight, I'm gonna
squish it down, and if it's
squish it down like a steamroller.
Let's say I suspect you shouldn't use any conversation about weight or density of men and women.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's probably not something I'll put on YouTube.
Out a little bit more then. Okay, shall I test that out?
Yeah, go on.
The Lydia
test it out. Are you going to run across it? Da, 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 da.
This one's the broken one, so I don't know if it'll actually take my weight. We need to fix that one up.
Now we get to move on to the bit that we've been really looking forward to doing, which is
Building the framework.
actually building the framework, which is wood.
Joe loves
Working
a bit
with
of
wood.
woodwork. Yeah, that's
Working
right.
with wood.
Yeah, right. Here we go.
Yeah, well, I like carpentry and carpenters.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
I'm Joseph, you see.
Yes, darling.
Yeah. So the idea is that we're going to do uprights like this, and then we're going to get a long sort of 3-metre piece to go in the centre. Unfortunately, it's not quite long enough to span the gap, so we're going to have to do some sort of triangular brace bracket thing in wood up here.
Yeah, probably
don't
more
judge us,
effort.
please.
Yeah.
Don't judge us. We were really fortunate that we found all of this wood at a building site. We talked to the owner of that building site, and he said it's okay for us to go and get their offcuts. So all of this was free. There's lots of ways that you could save money by just trying to get free wood and upcycle it. You won't get the perfect lengths, but you can do something with it.
Yes, we're going to make do with what we got.
Yep.
Round and round the timber goes. Where it stops, well, no one knows. One man's trash, another's dream. Break from the old regime.
Getting old.
Tell me when you're ready to discuss the next bit.
I am ready to discuss the next bit. Ready to discuss the next bit. No, okay.
So at the back, what we could do is we could have a single partition. So we have a small side and a large side.
Yeah.
Okay. And we could span that gap with a 2.4, so
Yeah.
a bit less than 2.4.
Yeah.
Just cut it off there. That piece would come along and get attached here.
Yeah.
And then I would cut the second of these pink pieces.
Oh, I see. Into
half,
another one that spans the
which
final
would
bit.
then span the final width. And since we've got 3 pieces, that would be perfect because it means we get 2 long pieces, one for the middle, one for the back.
Yeah.
2 short pieces, one for the middle, one for the back. And that should then be our basic structure.
I mean, I think that's genius. That is. I think that's a really good solution.
Right, I'm going to measure this exactly the same length to do the same thing, okay?
All right. Okay. Good stuff.
Okay.
Another one.
Right, just put this down for a second.
You want to measure half of it.
Against the edge of that. And we're going to measure to here. If you can push that line right to the very end of the piece of wood for me. Like, is that line? Let's see the pencil line.
Oh,
where you've
that
done.
line is to the
Is
end
it
of the
lined
end,
up on the
end of
end?
the pencil piece of wood.
Do we want overhangs?
Yeah, we do.
I shouldn't have cut those other ones.
Well, no,
Okay.
don't worry. Don't worry.
Right, cut it along that line there. Can you do that for me?
Is that actually
That's
half?
halfway, yeah. And they're very exactly to your method.
Which one is it? This one here.
Which one? I think so. Does it look like it's halfway to you?
No.
I'll get a tape measure. Ah, German is precision.
Precision saves wood. It's economical.
Good trust for Lydia.
No, well,
Although I did just make a mistake on the last one.
exactly.
But not to do with distance, just to do with
To do with forgetting.
philosophy. Is that on 1.2? Or 1.25?
It's on 46.5 inches.
Can you tell me in centimetres, please?
118.
You want it on 120.
120.
That's not far off, is it?
Okay.
That's out by 2 centimetres.
Round and round the timber goes. Where it stops, well, no one knows. One man's trash, another's dream. Break from the old regime.
Right.
So lift it up. Okay. Hi, Mum. Hi, Mum. Hi, Mum.
What about my mum?
Hi, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
for future thought about buildings,
Yeah.
in order to make it look less dominant from below, we should have made it deeper and lower and had side access, and that would have meant that it wouldn't have been like, you wouldn't see so much of it, but that's not necessarily convenient for us.
It's quite a posh woodshed, to be honest.
By our standards.
Well, yeah.
Hey, the one we made, remember when we made at our last house was nice?
Well, that shed was nice, yeah.
The shed was nice, that was a solid shed.
It was a solid shed. Here's a picture.
Shall we put on the side pieces, or at least hold up the side pieces and see what they're going to do, and then we could put in the middle bit? I don't really know what we want to do next.
I think we just put up the side pieces, to be honest.
I could walk
What does it
under
look-
that easy because I'm short. Look, that's nowhere near hitting my head on. Even
Well,
quite a
nor
tall person
mine.
could get under that.
Yeah.
So this could give the back overhang then.
Yeah,
couldn't
we
it?
probably actually will want to flush cut
We
that.
flush cut that, and then this will give the back overhang, which is about right from where you're standing
Yeah, yeah.
anyway. And then we'll stick a piece on the front for the front overhang.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really easy. It's actually really easy. You just hold things up to each other, and you don't need to make
It's
a plan.
nice not having to measure stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice. Makes life easier.
I overcorrected to the point where this one was starting to lean in.
That's it. Look at your skills. So solid. It's unnecessary.
Great.
It's a shame we're going to do a fabric roof, otherwise I could climb on the roof to prove its strength. Right, your job's done. Job's a good one.
What's the next phase? Or do you want to go in and have some food?
Quite like to go in and get food.
Okay. So the winter sun is disappearing fast and it's time to put the tools away. I think we've made really good progress today, but let's see what you think. So I've just fixed these pieces of timber here to form the middle of the roof structure, and now it's time to try putting the bed sheets on the roof. Dear Lord, I pray that our efforts are not just hubris. So I'm just basically initially just trying to stretch the fabric across the roof. Because these are always going to slip down, I'm going to try clamping everything in place. Hopefully a nice convenient place to put a clamp there. Okay, that does sort of feel like it's long enough. I'm going to hold it taut here so that it's relatively taut front to back. And stretched over the frame. Here, again, holding it nice and tight and trying to clamp it. I think for this corner I'm going to need a bigger clamp. I hope you can see where we're going with this. It's quite exciting. I'm going to be using these roofing tacks to try and stretch the canvas over and hold it in place. I'm going to try and stretch it really taut and hammer that in. Because I care about how taut it is, I'm actually going to go onto the other side of the roof now and try it from the other side. So again, stretching really tight. And hammer home. I'm now going to do the rest of the pieces from the middle out so that I can retain that tautness and stop the roof from sagging in the middle as it is here, like so. Because I only have roofing tacks, I'm just going to use some small tacks that I had left over, and I'm going to use those interspersing them between the remaining roofing tacks. These are better than the small tacks because as I was pulling that, the small tack just ripped out of the canvas. What's interesting is that the treatment of the cloth seems to have made it more susceptible to tearing. It just comes apart quite easily. I doubt that the original bedsheet before treatment was actually that susceptible, so that might be that it's a polycotton blend and something in the treatment has actually disturbed the polymers and somehow made it degrade slightly. And of course it's been degrading in the sunshine under the UV light, even in winter. Interesting thought. I think it's interesting anyway. Getting a bit complicated. So I've taken the end clamp off and it's actually holding properly, which is quite encouraging. So this is never going to be super tight. Stretching it really tight over here. Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to try and do is to clean up the front here. And I'm actually wondering whether I should effectively try to hem it so it's hidden like that. In fact, yeah, that is actually what I'm going to do. So let's just fold this under here like a lovely little hem and try to fold under some of those straggly ends as well. Well, what is the point of doing anything if it doesn't look pretty in the end? Just a little bit of extra time and attention can make all the difference, I think. The only problem being I need 3 hands. I think you can probably recognise by now that most of this is no different from building a felt roof, although you'd be stretching it maybe over OSB. But we're still stretching some cloth, some material, over a frame. It's pretty simple. Of course, there's a balance here between over tightening it and tearing the fabric and allowing it to be too loose so that water can pool and drips can just fall through the fabric over time. You will notice, of course, that there are actually some holes in this sheet, which brings me to our next point. We obviously have a roof on our structure and it will be somewhat watertight. If this was roofing felt, of course, we would just do it. If it was plastic, it would be probably fine and we wouldn't worry about doing anything else. You might have noticed that we dyed and oiled some blue fabric. That is actually what is going to be forming the topmost section of our roof. The only thing left to do is to build a structure for it. I have some idea how we're going to do that, so let's see how we get on. So what I'm doing now is just putting some batons on the roof, and what that will do is help to create a gap between the first and second layers of the roof. These are vertically aligned like this so that water can drip down them rather than collecting in pools against a horizontal batten. I would normally be using battens, but this is the wood that we've got for this job because it came out of the skip, as we said earlier. Not out of the skip, but that we got it for free. Great, so they're on, and I need to think about the next steps. Now, why aren't we using hand tools for a job like this? You know, these are noisy, they use power. We have talked long and hard about whether we're going to use power tools for this sort of thing or how much we prefer using hand tools. Some things just take a lot longer with hand tools, and we've been blessed by the weather at the moment, and that's going to change in a few days, and probably in actually 2 days. So I need to get this finished. It's quite difficult to do that with hand tools.
The extended upper roof section requires some longer pieces of wood, for which we're using some coppiced hazel poles scavenged from the surrounding woodland.
Like so. I think that looks pretty good.
Round and round the timber goes. Where it stops, well, no one knows. One man's trash, another's dream. Break from the old regime. Something borrowed, something something borrowed, something blue. Nothing gained by buying new.
So as you can probably see, it being winter, of course we ran out of daylight to finish yesterday, so I'm going to continue now with the final sheet. And this one I'm going to overlay on top of this one because I think that there's a gradual slope down here, and we hope that water will run off there without travelling that way under. Of course I need to actually stretch this on both sides to ensure it's all going to fit. And there is a benefit definitely to having someone to help you with this job. Otherwise it's quite a lot of walking around the building. Not a lot of overlap. Because one of the things I was clear on earlier was just how experimental this is. We have never done anything like it, and are totally unconvinced whether you should attempt it. Let's see how it works out though. Okay, now it's stretching and it will cover the majority of everything here, but this pole might need to be moved inwards. This is fine. Okay, if we are resigning ourselves to moving the end pole inwards slightly, I can perhaps engineer a little bit more overlap in the centre. Right, that's one in. Now, as before, I'm going to go the other side. If you want to, you could say it's hammer time, but we're not that kind of channel. And remove that. Yeah. Okay. One of the problems of doing a project like this is that the long pieces that you need are incredibly valuable, and You don't often have quite enough. And in a scrap wood project, you have to make these sorts of compromises. Ooh. I mean, it's there. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice indeed, really. Happy with this. Effectively, it might be easier just to sew this onto the end.
And with great dexterity, this is exactly what Lydia does next. During this process, we've had to hurry a little bit because of an oncoming storm. However, there is just enough time to admire our progress.
Wow, so Storm Éowyn has arrived. It did deposit quite a lot of rain on us this morning, and it was a very heavy, intense shower, and that has resulted in a bit of leaking. So it may be that the thread count of the fabric isn't what it should be. I don't think the oilcloth was completely dry before it started raining, unfortunately, but you know, that's winter for you. And even though that was a freakish amount of rain, it's obvious we need to do something. So we need a bit of a think about next steps now. So the worst of Storm Éowyn has now passed, and as you can see, the woodshed is intact. It's really beautiful. It's dry under there. We were previously concerned that the heavy rain that we experienced leaking through, that was a bit of a disaster from our perspective, but and now the wind actually seems to have dried out the oilcloth and effectively sealed the roof. So we actually do have now a waterproof roof. If we do have drips in future, we can seal it with shellac or another coating of the oil mixture.
It's been an interesting experiment, trying to make a tarpaulin from natural materials. I'd say it's been fairly successful.
Fairly successful. If you were trying to do it again, what would you do differently?
Well, we both knew the problem before we started. What we should have done is sewn these two blue sheets together before oiling them. But we were feeling pressured by the weather to get on with the oiling, and so I didn't sew them together first.
Perilous.
And then of course it was too sticky for me to want to put them through my machine, so I also didn't sew them afterwards, which means that of course there was a gap between the two sheets and water got in there. We've retrospectively tried to do a bit of hand sewing, which has been not very successful.
Yeah, delightful hand sewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lydia is actually very good at sewing. It's just that the access on top of the roof there is suboptimal.
But I think overall it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's fun to try something using slightly more natural, sort of kinder materials, like kinder to the environment, if not to us. And as with everything, we have a lot to learn about that process, but hopefully this inspires you to give it a go as well.
Yeah, it's been our first time, and I think I'd definitely give this a go again in the future.
Yeah.
With some improvements.
I think it looks more organic as well than the wobbly edges, and sort of, I don't know, it feels more homey somehow. It's old-fashioned-y.
Yeah, I think it fits into the environment better than if it had really straight, hard edges.
Yeah, it looks a bit medieval, which is nice.
Well, this has been a fun experiment for us. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and please subscribe for more experiments as we play with this plot of land we've got.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.